In this video, we'll look at the color scan trace tools, which can speed up editing by automatically tracing lines and polygons from georeferenced images. The tools are fully integrated into ArcGIS Pro's editing environment, so you can switch between the standard editing tools and automated tracing as part of your normal editing workflow. So let's see how to do that. Here we have an image that has georeferenced using the standard ArcGIS Pro georeferencing tools, so it's correctly positioned on the map. On the color scan ribbon, select the georeferenced image from the drop-down list. This becomes the active raster, and all color scan tools will work only with this image. Next, activate the trace tools to open the dialog, and I'll position it above the standard ArcGIS Pro editing panes, so we can use both at the same time. Before we start tracing, we need a target layer to store the features we create. This can either be a line or a polygon feature layer, stored as a feature class or a shapefile. You can either use an existing layer or create a new one. And once selected, the layer is added to the contents pane, and I'll quickly adjust the symbology so the line features are easier to see while we work. And I'll also set up the polygon layer to use later. So let's start digitizing some of these contour lines from this georeferenced image. First, select the line trace tool, and then just a single mouse click anywhere on the line. And we can see it has traced the line. And we can continue using single mouse clicks. And it's best to try and click on a clear part of the line, not a smudged area, somewhere where there is good resolution, and that gets a more accurate trace. Our lines are highlighted when they are created, so clear the selection. And we've created a number of lines very quickly. And you'll notice that the traced line follows the pixels in the source image very closely, which can result in small kinks. To reduce these, use the generalize offset setting. Now this removes vertices that fall within a specified tolerance. Increasing the value simplifies the line by removing more of these minor deviations. I'll undo the last line and trace it again using a higher generalize offset. The result is we will get straighter lines. And the ideal setting depends on the type of feature you're digitizing. For features such as contours, you may also choose to apply a smoothing geoprocessing tool after digitizing to further refine the final geometry. Autotrace works best when the lines or polygons are clearly separated. However, if we look at this area, the contours are a bit messier, so here it makes sense to switch to manual digitizing. And this is just the same as using the standard Create Features Pro tools. The key point is the trace tools give you additional options. You can use auto trace where it saves time, and then switch back to regular editing tools when that is more appropriate. Looking at this section, we have several contours that can be auto traced. However, the border is the same color as the line work. The trace tools follow connected pixels of the same or similar color, whether black, white, or colored. Now, if we trace the line as it stands, the tool would continue along the border as well. So to prevent this, we can create a barrier using the barrier tool. Auto trace will not cross this line. The barrier is stored as a graphics element, so it isn't added to your feature layer. Now we can trace the line with a single click anywhere along the line. Here we've got an unwanted line that has been created. This can occasionally happen where the tool has difficulty distinguishing the correct path. We can simply use the delete tool to remove the unwanted feature and continue tracing. And you can change to the explore, the hand tool, to move around the map by just holding down the C button on the keyboard. And that's a useful Arc Pro shortcut key. If we zoom out and turn off the source image, you can see our digitized line work building up. Next, let's look at the max line width setting. This prevents the tool from attempting to trace areas that are wider than a specified number of pixels. If you click on a feature wider than this limit, no line will be created and a message will be displayed. For example, this wide black feature, which looks like a river, Clicking on the wider section produces no result because it exceeds the maximum line width. However, clicking where the feature narrows allows it to be traced successfully. And it's worth noting that the width check is only performed at the point where you click. Once tracing has started, the line can continue through wider sections, and it will follow the center of the feature. So if you're working with consistently wide linear features, simply increase the max line width value. As we continue tracing, our line layer gradually builds up. Where line work contains many intersections, the tool will create multiple connected line features, which can then be edited if required. Let's switch to another georeferenced image. This is a geological fasces map showing the distribution of carbonate deposits. This time we'll use the polygon trace tool. Like the line trace tool, polygon trace requires just a single click anywhere inside the feature, and the tool automatically follows the boundary and creates a polygon. Now, one thing to note is that the trace tools follow areas of the same or similar color. As a result, the polygon is traced up to the edge of the colored area, but does not include the boundary line itself. To compensate for this, we can apply a buffer. The buffer is specified in pixels, and in this example, we'll use a 2-pixel buffer. I'll undo the previous polygons and trace them again. With the buffer applied, the polygons now include the boundary. As with the line trace tool, the generalize offset setting is also available for polygons. Increasing this value removes those minor irregularities and produces straighter boundaries. We are using the create polygons with internal, so if there are other features or holes in the polygon, those are recognized. With this, where it has got a bit narrow, the polygon hasn't quite completed, so we're probably better off just tidying that up with the Pro editing tools. And again, we have the manual digitize tool, which is just the same as the Pro create tool. And if we just digitize a patch over that area, we can just close that gap up. Just select both polygons, use the Pro modify tools, and merge. So that's tidied that up, and we can use any of the Pro tools. We could edit vertices if we needed. Again, emphasizing the trace tools just create regular polygons, which can be refined or modified using the standard ArcGIS Pro tools. Bearing that in mind, to create the internal polygons, we could auto-trace further polygons there, but we would not get a perfect fit without any gaps or overlaps. So instead, it would be better to use the Pro Trace Create features. And we can fill those holes in to get a perfect fit between the polygons. Let's just modify the symbology to see the border better. We've been looking at the color scan trace tools with internal, so recognizing any features within the polygon. However, if the image contains text or other markings that you simply want the polygons to ignore, like this question mark, use the trace tools without internals instead, and this creates a single solid polygon that covers the entire area. We've been creating polygons from these shapes, but we could trace the border to create lines. And if we do that with this shape, we can create a line, but it is not complete. Now in this image, the boundary, it's pixelated and the resolution, it's quite poor. And as previously mentioned, it can help to start the trace by clicking on a section of the boundary where the line is better defined. But even then, the tool may not be able to follow it all the way around. Now if that happens, increase the color tolerance setting. This allows a wider range of pixel colors to be treated as part of the boundary, helping the tool continue tracing through lower quality areas. Now be careful not to increase it too much, as the trace may start following features you don't want, creating unwanted lines or polygons. The optimal setting depends on the quality and resolution of the georeferenced image, so it may take a little trial and error to find the best value. A quick note on digitizing lines. The trace tool provides both curved and angular modes, allowing you to match the geometry you are capturing. For example, if we want to trace the box around this map key, selecting angular will produce sharper corners. And as we saw earlier, the generalized setting also helps create cleaner, straighter line segments. And we get a nice traced rectangle. Going back to creating polygons, just as with line tracing, we can use the barrier tool when tracing polygons to define the limit of the area captured, and preventing the trace from extending beyond the boundary we want. The trace tools are designed to work seamlessly alongside the standard ArcGIS Pro editing tools, so we can switch seamlessly between automatic tracing, manual digitizing, and the full ArcGIS Pro editing suite. If you are capturing features from georeferenced images, ColorScan can be a really useful addition to the editing suite.